meeting to order. And as I call this meeting to order, I welcome 3 new board members to this advisory board. But I also want to acknowledge that our city has been added to the long list of cities suffering a tragedy involving gun violence. Has been reported more times than we wish to hear. 3 people were killed in a neighborhood. The shooter then crossed into the Neuse River Greenway, shooting 2 more people. As chair of this board, I know that I extend on behalf of all of us condolences to the friends and families. However, as chair and as an active Greenway user, I believe that our greenways are safe. This tragedy reflects the unimaginable horror that results from a minor having access to firearms, whether it is a toddler or a teenager. Countless studies have shown that being in nature helps to lessen our collective anxiety. Our children and our entire community need more green time and less screen time. All of us. As Director Bentley will address, there's been an outpouring of offers of ways to acknowledge the lives lost, the need to heal the land, and to honor the individuals. In the coming weeks, this board will have an opportunity to join with others to plan appropriate actions. And with that, I call this meeting to order, and there will be some further time in the agenda for board members to make additional comments. All right. It's my first meeting as chair, although I filled in for Jennifer a couple of times. Last approval of the meeting minutes, but we don't have those. Okay, that's fine. We'll pass on that. And wait, am I not on the right page? Raleigh, here we are. Skip to the second page of the agenda. All right, too many pieces of paper. The Raleigh Youth Council. Oh, wait, public comment first. And so I think we have 2 people to make public comment. You you can come up to the microphone and state your name.
And your address. Are they supposed to say their address too?
Your name and address. Thank you.
Yes, dear. I'm Deborah Bromley. I live at 621 Thistlegate Trail, Raleigh, North Carolina.
And I'm John Shuford. I also live at 621 Thistlegate Trail, Raleigh.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all. And what we have to say aligns very much with the chair's remarks. We couldn't agree more. We live in the Village Lakes development of Raleigh, just across from Hedingham. So we, like all of you, we're greatly affected by those tragedies. We are frequent users of the greenways in the city parks, being outdoor lovers and loving to walk in nature. We love and respect all of Raleigh city parks and greenways. So we hold everyone that was affected by this tragedy in the light. We also hold in the light all the natural surroundings that are affected, especially the greenway. Nature receives negative energy the same way we do. Nature also is a great restorer of human pain. What can we do to heal the nature that was affected by these tragedies so that nature can help heal the community? I found this really interesting quote from Calvin Coolidge. There is new life in the soil for every man. There is healing in the trees for tired minds and for our overburdened spirits. There is strength in the hills if only we lift up our eyes. Remember that nature is your great restorer. So we're here today to ask the Parks Board to consider some sort of vigil or remembrance on the Greenway where this tragedy occurs, as the chair did allude to something like that. We know that there's been vigils for the human tragedies that have occurred, but there's not been anything for the nature where these tragedies occurred. So we're hoping that we can have a vigil in that area of the Greenway, or some kind of tribute can be placed there, or we could plant trees in remembrance of what happened to the humans and to nature there. So we hope to see something like that, and that will help heal the Greenway, and it will invite the community back to its restorative capabilities.
Thank you very much.
I kind of feel like we're preaching to the choir. but I have a mental health background of about 30, 35 years. And one of the things that we have discovered through neuroscience research is the impact of nature on us. And when you go to the beach, what does it feel like? It's a visceral feeling. When you go to the mountains, there's a visceral feeling. You feel it. That actually is coming from your heart. Your heart, and I'll be short on this. She doesn't want me to get too much into the details. But your heart actually has cells similar to your brain. We've just discovered this in the last 15 or 20 years. Your heart senses the energy around us. So, and it's been shown that going into nature actually affects our DNA. It extends the, it extends the telomeres, which are at the end of the DNA, and that determines how your DNA how the cells reproduce themselves. And every cell, except maybe brain cells, reproduce themselves on a regular basis. So if the telomeres are shortened because of stress, then what happens is they reproduce the cells inaccurately. And you end up with disease, you end up with diabetes, you end up with other kinds of diseases, mental health as well. So that area where that tragedy occurred, I strongly feel something needs to be done to heal that energy there. Because people going through it for quite some time will feel the energy of that tragedy. Because you got not only the people being shot, you got the person who found them, you've got the police who went there, you got the emergency medical people who went there, you got the coroner, you've got all kinds of people who went there, and that energy builds. Plus the energy of the person who was doing the shooting, because that sends it out.
And the energy of nature.
Well, and that impacts the energy of nature, because we know that trees and other vegetation actually can experience, I won't say emotion, but they actually react to negative emotion and positive emotion. So I think it's more than just nice if we do something there. I think we really need to do something there for the health of our community. So thank you for the time.
Thank you both. All right. Next on the agenda, we should have the Raleigh Youth Council. Is Carmen? There are two of them. It's not Carmen. It's the beginning of the school year. I think you all have got new leadership now, so.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
You get a little closer to the
A little
mic.
closer? All right. My name is Mary Baga. I'm the vice chair of the Raleigh Youth Council for the 2022-2023 term. So I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about what we're doing this year and what we have done. This is my first time speaking at the Greenway Advisory Board meeting, and thank you guys so much for having me. All right, so on October 8th, we participated in the Leadership Day Conference, which the SYC hosted at the State Building. So our exec members just went ahead and spoke to the other exec members of all the youth councils in North Carolina, and we shared ideas. We talked about the way we organize our meetings and all the things that we've accomplished, and yeah, it was amazing. I really enjoyed that time with them. So this Saturday, we are hosting a Halloween dance. We're going to be partnering with the Specialized Recreation. If you guys have any teens that are interested in volunteering this Saturday, it's going to be 4:30 to 9:30 at Millbrook Exchange Park. So yeah, even if you guys are interested in coming and volunteering, you're welcome. We're also going to be participating in the Teen Town Hall with the Human Relations Commission. It's going to be a roundtable talk at Kiwanis Park. We're just going to have a bunch of students and teams come together and talk about what kind of resources we need in our environment and continue to expose adults into the things that we're concerned about and what can we do to ask for help and change in our environment, the things that we're looking for. And so we're also going to be participating in the Mini Grant Conference, which is going to be in Rocky Mount from November 4th through 6th. It's a leadership conference, and we're going to learn about the grant process, leadership, marketing, all those kinds of things. We're going to be holding debates and speaking to the other students about what kind of grants we want to give to certain causes. And then we're also doing a coat drive on November 19th. It's going to be with the Courtney T. Johnson Community Center. It's going to be a coat giveaway. So, yeah, we're just going to be donating coats. Yeah. Guess have any
So
questions?
what's the date on that? Can you say that again? And is that something you would like us to help you collect?
The coat drive? It's going to be November 19th. And yeah, you guys are welcome to donate any kind of goods if you can, if you're able to.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, you did a great job.
Thank
Welcome to
you.
your first meeting.
Millbrook Exchange Park.
All right.
With the coat drive, do you need them, excuse me, need them in advance, I assume? Or can we bring them that day, or how does that work?
In advance.
It would help to have them in advance. I believe that's the day that we will be distributing the codes. We have to have this out according to Johnson.
So where do we get them in advance?
You can bring them to us, so if you sort of bring it to the building, and we'll make sure you have a list of where we have drop-off locations.
Okay.
So like, Wade Avenue, you can always take them
The
there.
JC part, okay. Yep, thank you.
And just to hop onto that, if you guys have any like high school students that you know that would like to participate in any kind of events that we're throwing, to volunteer or just to donate any items, you can just send them to us. We can send you guys the link to register for any of these events and things like that.
Great.
Yeah, tell your kids to join RYC. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a size range for the coat drives that you're looking for?
No, any size. Yeah.
We take all sizes, so we will accommodate toddlers through adults.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for being here. And is your colleague speaking too, or are you speaking for both of you?
I'm speaking for the both of us, but this is Naya Garland, is my advisor, one of my advisors.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being here. All right. The main action item on our agenda is the Devereaux Park naming. And for the new board members, this has been something that we have had. There was going back to last February, there was a community meeting held over at Halifax where names were solicited. Then they were vetted by the staff, and so we made a decision, and then we got feedback and that decision was Pigeon House Branch Park, and that is the creek that runs along through this property. But that's a mouthful, and it also has some negative connotations with it. So we abandoned that. We put out 3 other names, and they were, let's see, Smoky Hollow, they were Gateway, and they were Robinson Greenberg, honor the baseball players that had played in the ball field there. Those were ranked for in a public poll, and come on up and take us to the next step. I think I've probably given as much, I don't want to get on any softer ground on my history.
No, I do believe you gave a very good background. So, yes, so we are here tonight recommending action on a new name for the project currently known as Devereaux Meadow Park. And as the chair alluded to, we do have 3 names that we put out for a public survey in August and into early February for Gateway Park, Smoky Hollow Park, and Robertson Greenberg Park. The ranked order survey for that ranked Smoky Hollow as the public preference. We had over 1,400 respondents to that survey, which is pretty good, I do believe. So, but now it's based upon the renaming policy. It's really up to the board at this point to come up with the final recommendation to bring forth to City Council at their meeting on November 15th.
And to be clear, we are making a suggestion to City Council. They can then put any name in the hat and come up with it. So we probably don't want to agonize too much longer and harder because we've had a lot of agony. So questions that folks might have?
No, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion when it's the right time.
Okay. Any questions of staff before we, that? All right, Ms. Wagner?
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that the name for the new park should be Smoky Hollow Park.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, now that we have a motion on the floor, do we have any further discussion of that? Any questions that anybody has? All right, well then I'll call it for our vote. All in favor of naming the park at the corner of Peace Street and Pigeon House Branch Creek, Smoky Hollow. It's in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That will be our recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to let you all know, we're also going to be bringing the concept plan, which you all recommended previously. We're bringing that to City Council as well on November 15th. So,
Great, thank you. All right. Wow, we've spent a lot of time on that. Seems like we didn't quite give it its just, but I'm glad that we did, that we checked that one off. So we don't have minutes, but we'll get those emailed to us. And we did have the, they'll be at the next meeting, thank you. And we did get the director's report handed out. If you didn't get it, it was over there. And
I'll go over it pretty
Okay.
briefly. With the construction commencement at Dix Park, we had a number of items that were on the council agenda. One was which we are intentionally buying the playground equipment. It's a custom design manufacturer, actually fabricated and designed by a 50 or 60-year-old company in Germany. It'll be really natural materials, wooden, kind of a throwback. You know, we went from wood to plastic, and now we're back to wood again. So that was the bid waiver. Staff requested to specifically get this custom equipment, and council has to approve that. The second item is the authorization for us to hire a company. I speak loud anyway. For a company to do the construction materials testing. So as we put in concrete, someone tests that. As we put in rebar, it is tested. So that's the ECS Southeast contract. And then thankfully, we are proceeding with the renovations of Laurel Hills. That's been a project in the making for 4 years. I'm looking to Ken for a number of years. We initially started it pre-pandemic, did not have sufficient funds. Council generously added additional funds, and it's a comprehensive renovation of the existing community center at Laurel Hills. And just a few things at the end. As you probably have heard, there is a vigil on Sunday in front of, I call it Raleigh Memorial Auditorium. That will be from 3 o'clock to 4:30. It will be led by several nonprofits and faith-based leaders and the mayor, but it's in front of Duke Energy Center for Performing Arts. And then just a couple of other notes. We have Jazz in the Square. And we have a haunted.
oh, right, if we get out of here soon enough.
Yes. We have this Friday, we have a haunted trolley tour. And for new board members, I know we had the orientation last week, but I'd encourage you to sign up for Gov Delivery. You get a comprehensive email every Friday around 4:30 for a lot of information, from volunteer opportunities to projects that are going on to probably a dozen to 24 events every weekend that we're hosting in the park system. So we're not redundant and put it in this memo, but I would just encourage you to get it. I get it because it reminds me of all the great work that we're doing. So the other is, I believe it was Kara recommended at the last meeting, we had a presentation on a planned project and grant for Carol Lee Playground. And you requested what information do we have on other playgrounds and how do we choose? So I've asked Shaw Sheen. She put together a memo that is both in hard copy and in board docs. And we do it through a combination of funds. Prior bonds have funded it. Our annual CIP, which focuses on maintenance, does. And we do a ranking, and it's multifold. So one, is it out of compliance? and how far out of compliance. And then we take the Wake County Community Health Vulnerability Index score and where that playground is and in the city. And that also has a ranking. So what we've listed here for you is the next projects that we plan to do over probably the next 8 to 10 years, because we only do a couple a year. But those are listed in your memo in the council district in which they're in. So, any questions about, now you can also follow up with me afterwards, 'cause since you're just getting the memo this evening, but the way I would describe our choice is technically, are they out of compliance, whether it be ADA or the National Playground Safety Standards? And then where are they located within the city of Raleigh? So.
Great, thank you. And so the ones on the front page of that are all ones that have been done, and the ones pending are on the backside.
That's correct. Yeah, if you think about the last bond was reinvesting, this new bond is about new construction. So we will use the new penny for reinvesting in parks to address the ones on the second page that are in the pipeline for replacement and renovation. And we actually have some in design. We have some that we've applied for grants. And then the ones that we say unfunded, those would occur over the next several years.
Questions?
Yeah, yes. On the back side of the current and future considerations, I see Chamberlain Park is listed, but that's Isabella Cannon Park, isn't it?
No,
No,
Chamberlain
Chamber-
Park is by the water tower.
Yeah, small little
Yeah, I
little
thought
pocket
that was
park.
Tower Street. Okay. I got it.
Yep.
It's a bike rendezvous place.
I'm familiar with that little corner park.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to speak
yes.
also?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So great cue for the members of the community that came forward. We have received an extraordinary amount of outpouring from planting trees to a 5K to run or walk and bike to artwork to permanent memorials. And what we're focused on is this week and this weekend. The families of the victims are going through their services. So we are compiling them along with our community engagement director, who is Taisha Hinton, who is in daily communication with the victims' families. And over time, and I would say in the coming months, as the family has space to grieve, we don't want to rush into anything. So the holidays will be with us. And they're going to go through a tougher time than they ever have. So we will periodically engage them and community members that came forward and say, how do you want to support? We've had nonprofits, for-profits, people want to give money, people want to give trees. So we want to coalesce something, work with the victim's family and ask them, how would you like to honor your family members? So I would just say be patient. The board will be engaged. We'll look to you as also how would you want to contribute your time, your energy, and your network. But we want to make sure we do it right. So,
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, committee reports. I don't recall who is the new chair of the Parks Committee. Or do we have one? We don't have one. I know that our youth council member mentioned the event on Saturday night at, I think, Millbrook Exchange Park, the dance, and that has been part of the Parks Committee's outreach efforts. And so that means that we will need a new chair of the Parks Committee, so be thinking about that, folks. You don't have to decide tonight, but you can think about it and email with Giovanna, and she can let you know sort of scope of and plan.
That's what I was going to share, Madam Chair, if I could. They look at our fees in the future. They look at items in the past, they look at items like smoking and signage or things that the council has directed specifically for parks. So we have a Greenway committee. So just think about if your passion's more in the parks side of our department, that might be something that you might be interested in. So.
Okay, great. Fred Fletcher Volunteer Committee, I think we're in the lull time, but.
Well,
It's actually the formation time, so let's get in line. So I actually was going to ask, since there's most of us here, just to check in and see who is actually wanting to be receiving emails regarding that. And for the new folks, so the Fred Fletcher Volunteer Committee, it's a seasonal committee that comes together towards the end of the year to then plan a celebration to review and recognize volunteers that contribute to a number of initiatives around the city, from volunteer groups to donations to, all kinds of things. So in November, we'll just come together, November, December, just to check in and kind of look ahead to the process. And then it wouldn't be until January or February that then we would get, nominations would start, and then we will meet after one of the staff members, Mary Owens, collects them. I'm not trying to ignore you, Bob. Bob's to my right here. So we'll get together and review them, run through and pick out who wins. It's really fun, very, very inspiring. And then there'll be a ceremony in likely May, where we read remarks to recognize them, and it's just a big celebration. So it's a seasonal committee that essentially runs from November to May. So I'd actually like to know who I should be emailing, since we've had some more shifting in the board. So if you're interested, I'd love to hear. That way I'm not pelting everybody with emails.
Well, actually, for this first email, maybe do a whole.
I can do a whole group email, but there's your intro, so look for an email from me, and then I can begin planning with Mary Owens as the staff member.
Excellent. It really is. There's so many people who are out there contributing funds, contributing time, contributing labor, and doing so much that keep our parks and greenways in coordination with staff to make it as successful as it is.
And for the new folks, my name is Lindsay. So when you see an email from Lindsay, please open it. That's who you're getting it from. Yeah.
That's true. Okay, Greenway Committee. I have handouts for you because at the, I guess I'll just kind of divide them up. And these, or maybe that's one, two. Whoop, these are the pink, bright pink azalea ones are from the City of Oaks Foundation. It's their annual report. And then the other one is from the Triangle Greenways Council, and it's their explanatory brochure. And I think, please, I know we lots of times leave meetings and you come home with this stuff and you maybe glance at it and it might then make it into the recycling bin. I hope you will spend some time taking a look at, do you need some more of these? And because these are organizations that are really, really integral to what we do. The City of Oaks Foundation raises money for children to go to participate in our camps. It runs a park, the Jocelyn Gardens, and it's beginning to this is their 10 years, but it's really taken them 10 years to really get on their feet and expand beyond. And so it is an organization about which you will learn more, I think. And then the Triangle Greenways Council actually owns a good percentage of the land that not a huge percentage, but several hundred acres of land where our greenways are located. And so they hold title to the land and give us an easement. So it's worth understanding and knowing about these two organizations. So that, let's see, the other items on the agenda is where there are some neighborhood connection projects coming up, and some have construction pending. Crabtree Creek to Industrial Drive and Vintage Drive to Walnut Creek Trail. And then there's some other ones that are in design. So that's the Greenways Committee report, and I think it was just Chris and I.
Holding down the fort.
Holding down the fort. So we really, I know there are others of you interested. I know that Van has a new bike because I saw that on Instagram. So,
Is he a Greenway user?
oh yeah.
It's a natural fit then.
So there we go. Because we really are learning a lot, and we have some important agenda items in that committee too. Next committee is Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees Committee.
Yes,
Marcia.
that committee met on October 5th, and we had a really enriching, informative program. Brian Smith, who's the PRCR's Natural Resources Superintendent, and Lena Galanteo, who's a longtime parks advocate and a bird lover and very active in Wake Audubon. They collaborated and presented a program about Raleigh's involvement with the National Lights Out for migrating birds during their migrating seasons. And you folks may have seen the program that Giovanna sent out to the whole board and on the day after our meeting. It would have been on your October 6th inbox. Anyway, Raleigh has been very successful with city buildings, turning out the lights to help the birds that are migrating in the dark not get disoriented and slam into things and not survive. So we would like to see maybe some other buildings participate and how we can get neighborhoods involved. So was very informative and pretty exciting to see how much Raleigh is doing to have a vibrant, healthy ecology for all kinds of living creatures. We had the month before that the program about monarch butterflies and pollinator gardens. So the other thing that's coming up is it's almost time to start nominating for our Tree of the Year. Last year was the first year that we had a Tree of the Year contest where people can submit photos of their favorite trees, and those trees have got to be trees that can be seen by the public. So a tree that's in somebody's backyard that can't be seen from the street would not qualify. But, and the tree that won last year was on NC State's campus. So if you know of a tree in a park you want to nominate, please do it.
That sounds fun.
So that's the update from that committee.
Thank you, Marcia. So Deborah Ometa, who is still on our agenda until it moves to council, but I don't think there's a report there, other than the action we took tonight. Arts Commission and...
Yeah, so last Arts Commission meeting, I transitioned in place of Carol. She introduced me to everybody. They were really nice to me. There's the Medal of Arts presentation. It's going to be next week. It was supposed to be this week, but it's gotten moved to the 26th. And
I think it's right now.
oh, is it right now?
It's right now. And I think this month's CORAC meeting is
the
next
Okay.
week. Yep.
All right. So scratch what I just said.
I'm looking at Troy. He's going to be
Okay. Perfect. Okay. And that's at Theater in the Park? Did I get that part right? Okay. Yep. So you can head over there if you guys get out of here. Yeah. They're implementing an online grant system, and that is there was going to be a memorial for the young man that was killed on Green Road. That's going to be changed to an art installation. So you can look out for that.
Cool. That's great. And I attended my first Bicycle Pedestrian and Advisory Commission, and there was a very extensive presentation on the changes that are happening to Lake Wheeler Road from Maywood down by the Farmers Market to South Street. And, you know, that all abuts Dix Park, and the funding for that project is in the Parks Bond. And so the project, it'll be a 2-lane divided road, and then lots of wide spaces, both shared for pedestrian and divided pedestrian and cyclist, where the easement allows. There are a lot of challenges on that road, if you're familiar with it. Not only is the topography very sloped, but there are railroad tracks and a lot of construction going on. But I think that there is probably a site online that would have pictures of that.
Yep. If you go to RaleighNC.gov and go to keyword search Lake Wheeler Road.
Yeah. The Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC, is going to be looking at it in more depth in their planning committee. And there will be a time for public input in November. So, and then Raleigh Historic Cemeteries Commission. Next.
I'll stand in for Charles Craig. He is at the Medal of Arts Awards tonight. He did send a message, and they currently have one vacancy, and they're looking to backfill that vacancy. He also shared that they had some damaged fence to City Cemetery fence. You know, that fence was around the state capitol at one point in time, so it's an important fence and a historic fence that will be repaired next week. They also had a large tree planting initiative last Friday. I think some of you might have attended, hopefully so. And the next meeting will be after Thanksgiving on December 1st at 5:30 at the Tucker House.
Good. Dick's Leadership Committee, this was my first time attending that, and the Conservancy staff did an accessibility tour with somebody in a wheelchair. And while ultimately, when it's all built out, the park should be pretty much fully accessible, this helped to identify current challenges with accessibilities. The other things of note, Night of Lights will be in its 3rd year, November 19th through December 24th. I imagine that Giovanna will be getting in touch with us, with you new board members. This is one of the big payoff perks for being on this board. You don't have to fight the online crowd to get your tickets. There will be a 5K race on the 19th, and there will be bike nights in November 30th and on December 7th. And they have already begun setting up the lights over there. I saw that the other day. The other item is that, which I found very exciting because I used to be on the credit union board, was that there are funds being donated by CQ Foundation and CQ the bank for the renovation and restoration of the stone houses, and there will be a groundbreaking for that in November. So any of you who bank with the credit union, your little $1 a month that they charge on each account goes for those things. So I thought that was extremely exciting. The consultants also presented a concession study of how, where, and what food options should be planned for. I think it was pretty preliminary. I think they've got a ways to go. So that's my big
I was
spot.
just going to share, we talked about Nights of Lights. Troy can talk to it in detail, but we are going to bring back the Holiday Express.
Yes.
That is the hottest ticket in town. So I'll say that. And those tickets go on sale in about 2 weeks. So.
Okay, yes. Grandchildren in the wedding. All right, let's see. The Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board.
I was not at the last meeting. However, I did go to the October 5th volunteer banquet that they held at Moore Square Park, which is similar to the Fred Fletcher Awards, but it's amongst the Historic Resources and Museums program. So that was a great event. A lot of really great individuals and volunteers were recognized. And then I went to the October 15th, last weekend, History Stroll, volunteered to go on that, which really just meant I got to have a really interesting history stroll and walk along with Ernie Dollar, who's the director of the Core Museum, and hear a lot of the history of Southeast Raleigh and African American history in particular. So great stroll. You can remind me, Stephen, how that's going to be implemented. It was in the bond, I thought, to have that, but now is it being funded elsewhere? Okay.
No, it is in the bond, but we got an early grant to support the South Park Heritage Walk and the Chavis Diddick's Strollway through Congresswoman
That's why I was
Ross's office.
confused. So it gets a little kickoff.
That's
with
right.
the early
Yeah, so it
grant?
allowed us to not wait till the bond passes and move forward immediately.
Yep. So this should be great, that there will be some sort of way to recognize this history in Southeast Raleigh. Yep. Next meeting is next week, October 26th.
Great. All right. As chair, I emailed everybody and told you that I would have 2 questions for you. The first question being, why did you want to be on the Parks, Recreation, and Greenways Advisory Board? And so I thought this would be a good way for us to get each other's names, since I can't even read half of the placards out here. And the other question is, what are you doing personally to promote the bond? So we'll start with you, Van, because then we'll work our way around.
So I am a very frequent user of the Greenway, primarily running. And my bikes aren't necessarily suited. They're triathlon bikes. They're not necessarily suited to ride on the Greenway. But we live downtown. We hear Pullen Park all the time. I run past it. I just love our Parks Greenway system. And so it was just an opportunity to serve, give back to the city. And then as far as promoting it, when we had our little tour, when was that, a month ago? About a month ago? I took a picture when we were down at, oh my goodness, my brain.
John Chavis.
Thank you. And I put it on my social media and just said, man, I am so behind. This is a great example. It was just one of those beautiful days. You could see downtown. You could see children playing, and they were playing in the water and things. And so it was just a great opportunity to. You want me to get your microphone?
Yeah,
Microphone.
I know I'm sitting back kind of like this, like everybody hear me? You're comfortable. I'm comfortable. Yeah. So anyway, I just publicly supported it on my social media, which was an easy, as well as I'm in real estate, and so I have a lot of opportunities when I'm talking with folks to talk about how we have this bond and to get behind it. And so it's somewhat organic for me, but that's the primary way.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Van. So as the father of a 5-year-old who's just started kindergarten, my network of fellow kindergarten age parents has exploded recently, so I'm really just trying to push it any way I can, whether it's in carpool lines for the YMCA after school program or soccer practice or what have you. Just really trying to connect with other parents of young children about the benefits for the kids we have now and might come down the line. Oh, wow, I missed that part. I'm sorry. I joined in 2019.
Oh, and be sure so everybody state their name, too.
Oh, sorry. Lex Janes. I joined in 2019, and it was a little bit before, kind of back into my son, a little bit before he turned 2. Council member Stewart and I had a discussion, and at the time, and I think this has changed now, which is great. At the time, there weren't as many parents of young children on the board, and she talked about wanting to have that representation there, and so I was happy to join. And also at the time, I was working in natural and cultural resources for the state, which aligned really well, and it's still a passion of mine, although I have changed to another department.
Thanks, Lex.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Carol Ashcraft. Can you hear me? Actually, I was not interested in being on the board. I did not think I was qualified. but there were a certain circle of people who were being asked to volunteer. And I said, okay, well, somebody else will do that. But then the person who was organizing that effort I didn't hear anything from her. So I wrote her back. I said, did anyone volunteer? She said, no. I said, well, if you're desperate, I'll do it. No, and I never realized what a perfect fit it was, because I've been an environmentalist since I was before kindergarten, probably. And back in the day, we talked about conservation and soil erosion and all this stuff. And so and I was in Save the Whales. And so, and now I'm on the Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees Committee. And I feel like I've reached my zenith, So that's how it all happened. So now I have to thank the person who originally nominated me. And as far as the Parks Bond goes, I'm very concerned about it. I want it so much to pass. I don't know if I would be as good a speaker as some of the other people on the board who volunteered, and certain other people I know who are actively proselytizing for it. But I do have my signs, and I'm going to give it to, I've got other signs. I'm going to give the Parks Bond sign, yes, to the Parks Bond. Oh, and I've got it right in front of the telephone pole in front of my house, so that no matter which way the traffic is going, they're going to see it. And it can't be blown down by the wind. So, and there's still time. I mean, people have until what, November 8th?
Early voting started today.
Okay, so after I get through doing some other politicking that I'm doing, I'm going to see if I can still get on the bandwagon for more active support. Thank you.
My name's Jeff Havener. I am from Raleigh. I've been in Raleigh my whole life, and like Van, I'm a runner. I'm on the Greenway trails a lot, so I was hoping that I could be a contributing part of this board and give back to the city. Unlike Van, I'm not on social media, so I'm not promoting there, but I am speaking with people I know in the community to support the bond.
Hi, my name is Kara Strang. Welcome to the new members. I'm a relatively new member, so let me know if you have any questions, but the team is awesome. I wanted to join the board because, like everyone, probably everyone, I love being outside. I love our green spaces, and I love the programs that go on in our parks. Just did yoga yesterday at Dick's. It was a little cold, but it was really nice, and I love jazz in the square as well. And I was really inspired by our retreat. I thought the team did an amazing job, and it was wonderful to learn about the projects that are in this bond. And because that was such a wonderful experience, I've been really able to speak with passion about that to my community. And I always email everyone I know and remind them to vote. And this year is going to have a nice big paragraph about the bond. So yeah, thank you.
My name's Chris Pereira. Welcome to all the new members. I think my story is going to sound a lot like all the other ones. I like to run. I like to bike on the Greenway. I moved to Raleigh. I was born here, but moved away for most of my life, came back 4 years ago, and was just really impressed with the Raleigh Greenway system that we have here. I came from Charlotte, and I think some people might assume that Charlotte, being a slightly bigger city, might have as good a Greenway system, and they don't. Raleigh has a really unique Greenway system, and it's well taken care of, and it's very modern as well. I was really impressed that we could use the Greenway app and just figure out, no matter where you are, the quickest way to get onto the Greenway. So despite all of that, I still just felt like I wanted to be able to contribute, and little things that I thought maybe could be improved on, whether I could make a difference and contribute. So that's why I wanted to join. For the Parks Bond, I probably don't have as many followers as Van, but I've been trying to push it on social media when I can. And just anybody that I talk to, I've been trying to push it. I think, this funding is going to go to some really great parks and some really great projects. as most of you guys know. And so it'd just be really great to see the bond pass, so that everything that we can do for the next few years is to kind of supplement that instead of kind of playing catch up.
Great. I'm Beverly Clark, and newly elected as chair, and I am a passionate cyclist on the Greenways, and I don't run at all. God didn't give me legs long enough to run, but I have children who grew up going to Pullen Park when there was a swimming pool there, and now grandchildren who still ride the same train, or maybe a newer version. But it is a great pleasure to utilize the Greenway and the park system and Laurel's Hills Park, I can remember, and JC Park, my son playing basketball in both of those places. And I sent out emails to 300 or 400 people, urging them to support the Parks Bond. And I think as a former elected official, because I served on the school board for 10 years, I think the most important thing you can do is not assume that somebody supports something, but to ask them to do it. And so the reason I put the question out there is because I wanted to ask you all to ask your friends to be very specific. And don't forget, it's on the back side of the ballot. It's a fairly long ballot. So thank you.
I'm Marcia Presnell Jeanette, and I don't know how to say where to start with my love of parks in Raleigh. When I was in my 20s, I was hired as the first woman to be a labor person, a city gardener. I didn't know the difference between a pansy and a weed. I didn't know how to plant a bulb, but I learned and got good at it and was a hard worker, and was the first woman promoted to have her own crew. I was the gardener in charge of the Raleigh Rose Garden when it was in terrible condition, and people were complaining to the mayor at the time, was Giles Coggins, to do some improvements in the Rose Garden. And my supervisor asked, would I be interested in having the job? And I don't know about roses. And he said, you can learn. And I did. Then later worked in the Mordecai Garden. But anyway, I have and worked with senior adults recreation activities. And so 11 years I worked for Raleigh Parks, part-time and full-time as well. But I just love the diversity. I love the way people come together in parks. And I love all the kinds of life that's in parks. The bees, the butterflies, the birds, the cicadas, the people, the art, the trees. Anyway, I served on the Parks Board way back in the 90s and then did other things in the early 2000s and was really active on the Pullen Park master planning and then advocate for the preservation of Raleigh's 2 historic carousels. So, Stephen, can I go back to that era? But a few years ago, somebody called that was on city council and said that they just told me they had nominated me to be on the Parks Board. And I was stunned, totally stunned. I said to my husband, so-and-so wants me to be on the Parks Board. I don't think I'm over boards. And my husband said, what do you mean? You talk about trees all the time. Why wouldn't you want to do that? I started thinking, yeah, I guess I really would want to do that. And, you know, I've done it. And trees, 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 trees. So, anyway, I'm very grateful to that I have been imprinted with the value of parks and how rich our park system is. But I have to say, it's just so amazing. I want to get teary about it to see how much our parks are growing. I'm so delighted that we qualified to become a biophilic city. And the more I'm learning about how passionate Parks employees are about birds and butterflies and stormwater runoff and all kinds of things. Invasive species removal. It delights me. And I'm so happy to be in the company of other people that I can just be about parks all the time. And I talk about parks, and I tell my friends, anybody that knows me knows that I'm about parks. And so people ask me, what do you think of the parks bond? And it gives me an opportunity to tell them how important it is that this gets passed. And Stephen had been warning, I'd served on parks bond advocacy groups in the past, and Stephen said, we have a lot to do. You better be ready, save the days. And I've been waiting to go talk to people about this. And those opportunities haven't come, except for what I generate. I'm surprised that there's not more organization. And I've been waiting for those signs, and I was so glad Jennifer brought me a couple. But anyway, I really hope the Parks Bond passes. I talk about it every day, but I would like to see more. If there's anything more I could do, I would like to be informed, because I am willing.
I did get a mailing today in my.
I did too.
Okay. Jennifer.
Thanks, Marcia. That was great. So I'm Jennifer Wagner, and I'm rolling off the board at the end of this year. So I have been on the board for 6 years almost. And why I first wanted to join, I'm a landscape architect, so I love to design parks, and I love to design play spaces and playgrounds. And when I joined, I was just thinking about it. My kids were 4 and 7, so I was right in the throes of Playground Central. Now they're 10 and 13, so we're sort of aging out of that. But, now we use the Greenways, and, there's other ways. We go to Dick's Park and throw Frisbees. And so I love parks, like you said, Marcia. I mean, it's just in my DNA. I love it. I love how it brings people together. It's the great democratic space where everyone can gather, and there's no entry fee to get in. And so I wanted to give back, and so at the same time I joined the Fund Development Committee of Girl Scouts, and I joined the Parks Board, and two things that are near and dear to my heart. As far as the Parks Bond, I am trying to work it into every conversation I can. I feel a little bit like the folks from Mary Poppins that said, votes for women. Like, I'm just constantly chanting, vote yes for the Parks Bond every time I talk to someone. I've got a couple signs in my yard. I went and dispersed as many as I could, and have stopped the car and run out into right-of-ways and put them out, and trying to spread the word. Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is April Love. I wanted to join the Parks Board because I love to learn. I'm a 30-year educator, and it's just an opportunity. I'm a Raleigh native. I remember being at Pullen Park, pulling on the not the paddle boat. There used to be boats that go around in a little circle by the train, and I would just pull that. I'd pull that bell to death. That was my favorite thing to do, just ride it and ring that bell. And also in Pullen Park, there used to be the cheese. It's not really cheese, but it looked like cheese with the holes. And so just thinking about being as old as I am now and still remembering as a child how much fun that is, and as a former kindergarten teacher, just really appreciating watching kids be completely disconnected to technology and totally in tune with imagination. So it's just a great thing to do. And I also have learned lots of things that I'll be sharing with my students. I work at an alternative middle school. So we're going to be talking about biophilic cities. We're going to talk about the lights out and how the migration of birds is affected based on light. So I've already learned several things from listening to you all today. And I will promote the bond by creating a little text that says the bond is on the back side of the ballot, which is hard to say a bunch of times, and to vote yes. So I think I'll use a text and text all of my teacher friends and so on and so forth. And as a parent of a 14-year-old, because I clearly didn't do math, I have a high schooler. So I'm looking forward to the Raleigh Youth Council and some other things that we can support. My very first job was at Biltmore. I've run camps. I've written curriculum for the parks. I did the Kids 101. So I've been involved in Parks and Rec for a very long time. So I'm very honored to have a new learning experience.
And she happens to be Dr. Carol Love's daughter. Who, for the new board members, one of you is taking her mother's place, who was on the faculty at NC State for many, many years, and has been a member of this board and just one of the real columns. What's the word I can't think of? But
A pillar.
Pillar. Pillar. Thank you. When your brain leaves you. Lindsay.
My name is Lindsay Saunders, and I'm actually halfway through my second term on the board. So why I wanted to join, it didn't actually cross my mind until I was getting a ride home with Patrick Buffkin from a CAC meeting, and he mentioned that he would have to depart his role on the board since he was taking office, and asked if I'd like to take his place. So that there would be maintaining presence from both District A, since there is a lot of presence of folks who live in the downtown area, so maintain that continuity of representation outside the Beltline, and then another millennial as well. So those were two of the things that came up, and it's funny, it's not funny really, but like my grandparents and my parents were elected officials and served on boards. So like my parents were going to board meetings my whole life. And my dad was campaigning, like it was just a thing. But I didn't imagine myself being on board. And yet I'm on 3 boards right now. And so 5 boards, this is my 5th board. So I'm on this government board, another local board, and a national nonprofit board. But it wasn't until he suggested it that I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And so, but the reason I was actually interested after, mine is related to many of yours, but also something different from that. I lived in Zambia for a little over a year working on foreign aid with the U.S. government, and I learned that having parks and community centers and greenways are an incredible luxury. An incredible privilege. I can't speak for all developing countries, but Zambia is a beautiful country in sub-Saharan Africa, and it does not have people parks. I have been to wildlife parks, interacted with zebras and rhinos and giraffes, and they're very tall, but there's no people parks. So during my year living abroad, I missed the parks, the nature, more than anything. Even though I could go see like zebras and giraffes and rhinos, it wasn't the same. Like you can't just go for a walk. It's a dusty road. So I missed them more than anything, more than my family, my car, like all that other stuff. Like that was the thing. Besides Southern food, I really missed that too. So they're a real luxury. Many other reasons you share I relate to as well, but that's my unique reason. And so when I came back, I instantly decided I needed to overcompensate in my civic engagement, which leads me to, I'll share something different as well in terms of promoting the Parks Fund. Some of you may know in addition to having a day job and being a parent, I organized 7 candidate forums over the past 6 weeks, all around the city of Raleigh, 7 city council candidate forums. I was at every single one of them, and so weaving in a question related to the parks, and then having candidates want to talk to me afterwards. Those are my unique responses, I think, that answer those questions, and I'm glad to be here with you all.
Good evening. I'm Bob Edgerton, and I am not a native of the city of Raleigh. I have lived here 20 years, but I grew up in a small town just to the west of Jones Franklin Road, and then there was 30 years in the military. I had some thoughts about increased density and the importance of parks and all that, but I really believe the reason I want to be here is because listening to 11 people that I have something very much in common with, and recognizing the importance, the increasing importance of parks, recreation, and giving alternatives to density so that we can all have better lives like that. And as far as supporting the parks bond, I promise to straighten every bond sign I see.
Very good. Well, thank you all. I think this has been helpful for us to be able to, in a fairly short time, get to know each other and see a little glimmer into each other's souls. So, thank you. The other thing I want to be sure and to have time, if anybody has any other reports that or information they want to share. And I also have one question for you, Mr. Bentley. Can you give us, the board, an update on the fence encroachment on the Crabtree Creek Greenway?
Sure. I don't have much of an update. It's very similar to the previous one. So for the greater board, along Allegheny Trail on our Greenway, a private residence has built their private fence approximately 14 inches off the Greenway. We'll say 18 to 14 inches. I don't have the exact off the top of my head. And that type of encroachment is reported by our staff and our community members to the Planning and Development Services Department. So we have limited authority as a Parks Department. They went through every procedure that they had, and it is now escalated to our attorney's office, who is trying to work with the landowner. I didn't ask Surrey anything. So the report I got back that our attorneys are trying to communicate with the property owner on an amicable remediation.
I can't tell you how many times I have run past that thing and wanted to have
A can of spray paint?
Yes.
Me too.
Just write something on it. Like, what were you thinking? Or, I don't know. But I have it.
I haven't either.
Yep. Yeah. You're being recorded, so remember that.
Right. That's true.
But I can say from the Parks Department, we ask routinely, even when the board does not. And we will continue to do that. So I hope that we find progress in the short term.
Well, I wanted board members, and especially new board members, to know about it. And I'm going to suggest that at our next board meeting, we adopt a resolution to council asking that it's been, by the next board meeting, it will have been a year. And I think the construction began November or December of last year. And that's plenty of time. For
Just for reference, what is the width of the actual, like, what does the city own? How far have they encroached, I guess? That's the question.
Lisa's not here, and she has that. And those are the things that we've been tasked is if we are, as a part of the negotiations and discussions with the attorneys, what is something that is reasonable that we can ask them versus remove everything back.
But they must be on city property,
Oh,
right?
they are, and that's, I don't have those specific measurements, but I can certainly send those to the board.
It's definitely more than just a couple of feet.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it is.
It's about
Yes.
80 to 100 feet wide, and I believe, I'm not a fence expert, but I believe the height is also in violation because it appears to be about a 10-foot fence, and I don't believe that's allowed. So it is too close to the Greenway, it is too high, and it is long. And so it is, if anybody wants to go look at it, it's on out in the 3300 block of Allegheny, between Crabtree Boulevard and where Allegheny, between the Beltline and what street is that? I don't know. I can help you find it. I can drop a pin for you.
But there is a gate on either side, so maybe their intention was for the Greenway to go right through their yard.
Giovanna, for process purposes, I'm considered the secretary of the board. It may be that the board chair and the vice chair write a letter to me as the secretary and the director of the department for an official response, because I'm not sure, like, from procedurally, a resolution going to the council for what. But I think procedurally coming through me,
Okay.
that would be, you can do that. I think that would be the best thing. And then I would pass that on to our city manager and city attorney's office.
Looks like their property line goes all the way to the water, creek. Is that the issue? They think they do own the property.
So I can't quote you on the exact easement language, but the city acquired easements all the way through there. So they do own the property, but we have a property interest through our Greenway easement.
Good question, though, Jeff. All right, we will. So anything else that anybody, people who were at Mount Hope, and then I know we're going to wrap up shortly.
Are you sure?
I wanted to mention that if you're in Southwest, do drive down Lake Wheeler Road. It's a work in progress, many moving parts. As you drive down Lake Wheeler, there's demolition on one side of the road. There's a new building on the other side. The fence has gone up now for Plaza Play. Construction should start anytime. The road redesign is going to impact us all. Bus rapid transit will be in there. So there are many, many moving parts for us to be watching. But just make a trip through. You need to have the mind's eye view of what's there. Thank you.
Lindsay, we'll just go this way this time.
Okay, so even though we are volunteer appointees, we represent the community, and folks do frequently reach out to me in various forms. So this email popped up in my inbox. Someone was expressing some disappointment that in terms of accessibility, or not really accessibility, bike inclusion for the Nights of Lights occasion. Apparently the 5K is in November, and the 2 bike nights to participate at Nights of Lights are only on Wednesday nights and end December 7th, whereas cars are welcome until the 24th. So the request is, could there be a bike walk night actually closer to the holidays and a weekend option, because if you have standing obligations on a Wednesday night, then you don't get a bike ride to experience Nights of Lights. So this request came in. I said I would relay it.
Yeah, if you would forward it to me, and just as a board reminder, this is not a city event. This is put on by
That's what I advised.
a
This
private
individual
company.
said I would ask and relay.
Yeah, but I would certainly send it in. We actually added a bike night because we had so many people say I couldn't make one,
Yeah.
so we doubled it. But I think that's very valid, so definitely send it.
Okay,
Yep.
sure thing. Thank you.
Anything else along here? Chris?
Yeah, this was related to the Great Trails State Coalition that Giovanni sent us the information for. I don't know if anybody from the department already went to one of those, but I was at the... Yeah.
Shashin? No, quick question. Do you know if any of the Greenway team joined the virtual option for the Great
Trails.
Great Trails
State Coalition.
There was two options to. We'll look. I think one is next week and one is this week.
Yeah, I went to the one that was today.
Okay.
I didn't want to tread on if you guys already had it covered, but it was. I guess I was just going to report to the board a little bit more information because I was interested.
I would go ahead because
Okay.
one of the questions our staff has said, "What is it?" Because
Yeah.
when we asked the state, they didn't have a definition, and they were supposed to release it on these.
Yeah, that was interesting. They said that they've been getting asked a lot whether they're a nonprofit. They're not a nonprofit, but they work with nonprofits. But really, their whole purpose is to promote trails. The North Carolina General Assembly decided that next year, 2023, is the year of the trail. So they're trying to do a really big marketing campaign that markets trails statewide. They showed a few maps. A lot of the trails were in the Triangle area, so we're well represented. But basically, they were saying that their participation rests on 4 pillars or columns. It's the industry groups, nonprofits, local government, and then state agencies as partners. And they were saying that right now they're really underrepresented with the local government. There's only 3 counties. They're all kind of in the Triad area, so none are around here. So they were just hoping to get people on board. It does seem like it costs some money. The lowest amount that I saw was $250, but they said if you want to donate more, you can. And then there's going to be a local government working group that's going to be meeting throughout the year. They said right now they think it's going to be quarterly. So, and I have an email address if we want more information.
That's great, because when the state said that's the year of the trail, municipalities asked the state, what does that mean? Is it grants? And they said, watch the webinars. So we'll certainly look at it and watch the one next week.
Did you, excuse me, may I ask Chris a question? Sure. Chris, did you think that was really beneficial to, how long was it? And did you think you learned a lot?
I think I learned a little bit, but I didn't learn much more than what I just said, but I thought it was really interesting to sit on there. What I thought was really cool, because it was a Zoom call and nobody went around introducing themselves, but you could see they asked everybody to say where they were from in the chat, and they had representation from across the state. There were probably 2 or 3 people from the Triangle area besides me. The mayor of Morrisville was there. He told everybody that he was the mayor. Yeah, I think I've seen him on social media. But I thought it was cool, and they showed some maps that showed where some of the existing trails are and kind of how they're splitting it up. They didn't talk a lot about plans for what they would be doing with the money, but I think that's probably what the working groups maybe would dig into.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything they want to share? Giovanna?
Usually in December, we do the boards and commission holiday social after our December meeting with an abbreviated meeting. So we are planning to do one this year. It won't be our regular sit-down meal that we usually do. It's still a work in progress of what we're planning to do, what I'm planning to do. But that date is going to be on our regular meeting night, December 15th. So keep that date on your calendar, December 15th. And we are planning to be at 5 Point. So more information will be forthcoming, but just wanted to give you all a heads up. December 15th at 5 Points.
Great. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, Beverly. So the last week has been pretty challenging, obviously, for our community and the victims of the shootings. But I do want to share my gratitude for our staff who woke up the next day and went to their jobs unconditionally, asked how they could help, stayed out. All hours are working, all weekends. Our city manager pointed out it's hard for the community, but you're a community member and you face that in your job. So thanking them for unconditionally always asking how they can help, whether it be a community member, a board member, the manager's office, the mayor. They're the best. So.
Yeah. I don't know whether it was broadcast tonight while the Jazz and the Medal of Arts was going on, but I did do an interview with WREL yesterday. They asked the question, do you think the greenways are safe? And as I said in my remarks earlier, I do believe they are. I believe the cause and the problem are outside of the control of the greenways. So don't know how they'll chop and face that.
Yeah, I gave one too, and I think the same thing. So.
All right. With that, this meeting is adjourned.